intend to approach it with particular reference to the amnesty, bunkering, and inclusive development. Thank you.
Inclusive government.
Inclusive government. How you include, women, youth.
I see. Yes. I hope you have a copy of the election results. Literally constituencies, for example, that gave me 97%, cannot, in all honesty, be treated on some issues with constituencies that gave me 5%. I think this is a political reality. While certainly there will be justice for everybody, everybody will get his constitutional right. But while the party in constituencies, where they either share hard work, they made sure that they got their people to vote and to ensure their vote count. They must feel that the government has appreciated the effort they put in putting the government in place. I think that's really fair and deliberate. By the Constitution, no state can be excluded from government. So there is no way, even if I want to show gratitude to those constituencies that heavily voted for me, against those that didn't even vote for me, they have the protection of the government. And I made an undertaking in that. That I belong to everybody, I belong to nobody. If I come clearly and show and marginalize a certain group because they didn't vote for me, then I have already contradicted myself. And I'm sure people will be too quick to pick that against me.
Well, that's President Muhammadu Buhari there at his recent visit to the United States while answering questions at the International Institute for Peace on the need to provide inclusive government. That's going to form a template for our discussion today in the issue of what kind of appointments the president has made so far, the controversies generated, and the allegation of lopsidedness to favor one section of the country over another.
Well, unfortunately, the issue again is in the front burner. Nigerians are talking about it. 31 appointments so far, and those appointments have been skewed in favor of the North, and only about 7 from the South.
It's while a lot of people are complaining, critics are also saying this is in direct consonance with what the president said in the U.S., what he just heard there in that particular video clip we just showed you. We'll be talking more about this, and we have a guest already in the studio. We're talking Chief Barrister Dan Nwanyanwu, OFR, former National Chairman, Labour Party, and former Chairman, Board of Trustees of the Labour Party. Good to have you here, and thank you so much that you braved the rain in Abuja to make it into our studio this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Barrister Nwanyanwu, let's go straight to the issue. What do you make of the president's appointments so far?
Well, this is an issue that ordinarily I wouldn't have loved to discuss. When you called me to come for this discussion, I said yes, it will deepen what happened in the National Conference. You see, the problem of this country, I have always said, has to do with where you come from and who you worship. First of all, this is not the first time we are having lopsided appointments. Let us understand that very clearly. In Jonathan's administration, we also had appointments that were skewed towards one particular zone. The difference is that these appointments was not made to benefit people from President Jonathan's zone. You know, most of the key appointments at that time. And I am speaking as a patriot. So, and I may have to use some harsh words which may touch some persons. That doesn't mean I believe in it. I have to use these words to drive home the fact that nationhood doesn't belong to one section of the country. I recall when we were in the conference and we were given opportunity to respond to President Jonathan's speech to the conference, and it was aired live. I talked about tribe. I talked about religion. I made point to the fact that Aminu should be bold enough to promote Dele if Dele is better than Musa in his office, vice versa. And we are fighting corruption. Nepotism is a very strong ingredient to corruption. So if you now fight corruption and you bring in nepotism, then you are going to have a backlash. What am I saying? The appointments made by the president is his prerogative to make such appointments. These are his personal staff. But you have to look at the circumstances of the country. He had just formed, by those appointments, he has formed his kitchen cabinet. That kitchen cabinet are those that have to advise him on almost all the issues. They're the ones that will meet him late, they're the ones that meet him very early. And now you have people from the same geopolitical zone, the same religion, the same everything. How would you represent the interests of the man from Iloluji, or the man from Ikedru, or the man from Oron? That is the point. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multicultural society, and you must balance all these circumstances in everything you do. Because if it's a situation whereby you concentrate on a particular area, what are the people saying? Take for example in the entire security apparatus. You don't have anybody from the southeast, and this is where the security of the nation will be discussed. Somebody may put to the council that there is a program, there's something going on in the southeast, that this, when it is not true, forces will be moved to deal with the people. Because nobody has said whether it is true or not, because you are not in a position to know. Let me tell you, you see, when you are talking about representation, there is no part of Nigeria that you will not get the best today. I am not impinging on the integrity of the people so appointed. For example, Abakari. I know Abakari very well. When he was in UB, most people are not aware that I also was a banker. I was in Union Bank then. He's a man of very high integrity, very efficient. He added value to UBA. Ditto Colonel Ali, who I started monitoring after the Oputa Commission. Very honest, incorruptible. But you can also find similar people in other parts of the country. Nobody is talking about the integrity and what value they're going to bring to the office.
The party, the president's party, that's the All Progressives Congress, recently came out to say, shortly after this entire controversy over this appointment, that, look, the president is appointing people who he knows personally and those he can vouch for their integrity and those who can be able to push the change agenda and support him in the anti-corruption war. And some persons are saying, look, if you were in the position of the president, wouldn't you appoint people which you know very well personally and those you can feel confident that these are the people I can handle stuff to, and they push it through?
I think the leadership of the APC have tried to patronize itself or try to console itself. A country like Nigeria, if any president in Nigeria can only trust people from his own area, then it is worrisome. That is why we need presidents that are well traveled. We need cosmopolitan president. We need a president that knows all nooks and crannies of Nigeria. It is not enough to just know your area and the people around you. That is what differentiates this situation with President Babangida. Somebody confronted me on Thursday that why are the people crying? Why are our people crying? They hated Buhari. I said, no, the Igbos didn't hate Buhari. The main issue is that if President Babangida was on the ballot with President Buhari and President Jonathan, I make vote for Jonathan from Southeast, South, would have voted for Babangida. Why is this so? Trust, confidence, who will protect your interests. Probably President Buhari didn't stay long enough during his first missionary journey as head of state for Igbos to appreciate him. But there's somebody they have tested. There's somebody they have seen that opened the doors for businesses to strive, that opened the doors for people to bring out what they have. I remember, it is not enough for us to sit down and say, okay, we 95%, 3%. No. It's a president for all. Election is gone. I, for example, just a minute, I did not vote for Buhari. I have said this severally. I'm not among those who are pretending as if they did. But I know Buhari 101. In 2010, I was in his house in Kaduna when I wanted him to come and run under the platform of Labour Party. We were talking every week, once every week. Go and ask his media chief. It was before he registered the CPC. We continued talking until the ACN went to him, and I told President Buhari that I have walked away because I cannot work with that group. And he appreciated it, even though he advised that why not work together and all that. I stopped calling. So I know him one-on-one. And what is happening now is different from what he told me in his house in Kaduna.
Okay, Chief Nwanyanwu, you mentioned the 97% and the 5%, which you also played here in the introductory to this particular discussion. That particular conversation which the president had in the United States is what a lot of people have used as a basis to say, yes, this is what is playing out right now.
Yeah.
But also in that particular clip, the president also said the Constitution protects every region and gives every Nigerian the rights and privilege that that they should have. Should there be any validity or merit in saying the president's appointment is towing the line of his earlier statement?
If you know President Buhari, he's a man of very strong character. He doesn't pretend. I've taken time to study him from 2010. President Buhari doesn't pretend. He shoots straight. What you had there is what he's going to do in his government. And he said it in all honesty.
But he also seems to have amended that part.
The amendment is constitutional. They will now throw ministers around which he cannot hold. Every state must get a minister. So he will also play it out by those people he perceives didn't vote for him or he doesn't like. They are the ones that will go to culture. They are the ones that will go to tourism. They are the ones that will go to all those ministries. President Buhari doesn't pretend. We know him and he's honest. He is a man of very strong character. So let nobody deceive himself. I have told my people. I have told the Igbos, the South, even to some extent, some Yorubas, that you should write off. You don't owe anything, particularly the Northeast and South. You don't owe anything. You can't make a claim on this government. Why do I say so? You have seen the handwriting on the wall. That is what Chokwa Sokoria called political shock therapy. I don't know if I got it right. They require it to go back to the drawing board. You don't have to, after all, during the last administration, you had SGF, you had aviation, you have finance, you have this, you have that. How did it impact on the people of Igbo land? Today, there are no roads in Igbo land. The second Niger bridge has become story. That story started from Obasanjo's regime. As if that bridge is meant for only Igbos to use.
But let's look at this again. Now, the president realizes from that video we saw earlier that there is no way that he's going to ignore the other parts of the country that really didn't vote for him, which is what everyone expects, that it shouldn't matter who voted for the president and who didn't, because he's the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You're saying here that the person of the president that you know does not pretend
He doesn't
and will
pretend.
do exactly what he has said he will do. Nigerians are already crying out about these appointments. Don't you see a possibility where the president will make amends in the appointment of the ministers?
It doesn't matter how deep we cry. You see, this is one decision that the government could not defend. Even the APC leadership couldn't defend it. And that is why you have statements from the presidency that corrections will be made. That means they have realized the consequences of that action. I read the national chairman of APC yesterday, I think it was in the This Day, why he said the APC will now play prominent role in other appointments. What was the input of the vice president in those appointments? Professor Shebadu, what was his input? What was the input of the national chairman of the party? President Buhari told us he believed in party supremacy. Why party supremacy in the Senate House of Representatives? There is no party supremacy in your choice of appointees.
Are you suggesting the party has no say?
I can. If I tell you this, take it to the bank. The party has no say in these appointments. So the party supremacy is not there.
And do you see that playing out as well, much further in other?
Well, there may be some attempts to garnish it. You know, to add some certain things to it by giving the party some opportunities to make few nominations. But the chunk of the appointments are gone. And that's why I told people, let us support Buhari to succeed.
That's what, now if you look at these appointments, again, there are those who argue competence over region, over ethnicity. Isn't that valid, really? That you put competence over
It is very valid, but we should not be changing goalposts at the center of the match. If we are now going for competence, what it means is that the entire southern Nigeria, nobody is competent. The implication of that is that the north that has been disadvantaged has now overtaken the south. Let us now abolish federal character. Let us now abolish cut-off marks in JAMB. Let us abolish favors entry. What do you call these schools? King's College, what do they call it?
Unity
schools and all that. They will know that we have arrived there.
But you just said that in the Jonathan's administration, we had ministers who handled key ministries like the oil, like finance, like works and roads and all of that. And today we're talking about the fact that there's still infrastructural deficit in most of these places.
See, that is what I'm telling you. That's why I said this discussion I'm having this morning is one based on enlightenment. Inside me, it doesn't bother me because I know, for example, I have said it before you, in my business life, I have never made 1 naira from an Igbo man. In my business, I'm Igbo. My parents are Igbo. I have never made 1 kobo from an Igbo. It's either Hausa Fulani, Yoruba, Middle Belt, or South. In my business life. So it doesn't bother me, but it bothers the majority of Nigerians. And that's why in nationhood, which we don't have now, we must try as much as possible to build a nation.
Should it bother Nigerians? Because you just gave an analogy of yourself. It doesn't bother you, but it bothers generality
that is the
of Nigerians. Should it?
It should. Because most people, when they see a name that they recognize, they are happy, they don't comment. Whether the man will steal the place dry, he will not put rules to their place, and he will build nothing. Once his man has been seen there, it's okay.
Does that make it right?
It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. But you have a country with over 250 ethnic groups, multi-religious, multicultural. You cannot appoint Christians all through in a government. It does not work. This is exactly what led to the collapse of the First Republic. Historians, political scientists will tell you that. We are going back to what led to the collapse of the First Republic. That's why people like us and some of us, and I was very happy when the first salvo was thrown by Arewa youths on these appointments. I jumped and said, thank God, there are people that will join us in the rebuild of this country. There are old people, with greatest respect to them, who are now milling around President Buhari. they are trying to have another cabal as we had during Abacha's regime. Some of them may be seeing the president this week on the National Conference report. A conference they were part and parcel of. A conference that arrived at over 600 decisions on consensus. They don't want to let go. These are people Nigeria has given everything. These are people Nigeria took from nowhere to the highest point. They are not interested in tomorrow. Because the way President Buhari is going, where are the youths that slept overnight on the internet? Where are the young men and women who were the driving force that brought President Buhari as president?
All right. Chief Gawai.
And now we are dealing with 60s, yes, 70s and 80s who are spent with greatest respect. You cannot be talking about Nigeria with a 60, 70-year-old man when you have boys of 30, 40 that you should be thinking about their future.
Well, you have a president who is 73.
It doesn't matter. That 73 of President Muhammadu Buhari is the strong content we have in the presidency. President Buhari won all the elections in Nigeria, including those who claim they are senators, they are governors. Nigerians voted for Buhari as if President Buhari will be the State House of Assembly member, senator, House of Rep. Let them be deceiving themselves that they were popular. If it was not President Buhari, those of them in those places wouldn't have been there. But and that strong content we need. With that strong content, President Buhari should live above all this perfidy carried out by these old people who want to derail his government. And we must speak out. At the end of, look at Jonathan today. They're calling Jonathan. When a president refuses to listen and the thing collapses on his head, nobody will call on that. They will call the president. But
Nwanyanwu, now there is a school of thought that is the section of people who believe that we shouldn't expect anything more than what we are getting from the president. During the campaigns, a lot of Nigerians, or quite a number, were not thought, as a matter of fact, that President Buhari is likely to tilt this way because he's a northerner and he has always been known to be very closely linked, with the north, barely, went around Nigeria. These were facts that were well known. There were those who thought President Muhammadu Buhari was an extremist in terms of religion. He did come at, of course, that was debunked. But the question is really, did you expect anything different?
You see, President Muhammadu Buhari will make a good president if you have patriots around him. He's showing that strong character as a leader. Immediately he was sworn in, things started changing. Electricity, for example. Has he built any power plant? The answer is no. But we started having light. We're having light now. Nigerians are straightening up. We have that strong character up there. We need patriots, not people who believe that they are Nigeria and Nigeria is themselves. We expect more than that. President Buhari is above 70. He need not impress anybody, but Nigerian people. You need not listen to those advices that will lead you into failing, because he's a second person that is having very strong opportunity from God, apart from President Obasanjo. So he has opportunity to tell Nigerians, I'm not a tribalist, I'm not a religious bigot, I am for all, I'm not for nobody, and so on and so forth. With Buhari there, Nigerians have the right to expect more, because when you have the head that is correct, Nigerians will key into the system. So during the campaign, you are correct, I was of the opinion that when I said in one of my writings that adults don't change much. That's why I say you must have patriots around him. Adults don't change much. At a particular age, you have formed their character. If it is too bad, people will shout, you just mellow a little bit. After a while, you go back to it. Adults don't change much. That is acclaimed all over the globe. But if you have patriots who, Mr. President, this thing appears not to be too good. I see. I didn't see it that way. You keep taking the president on. Patriots! Not the kind of characters the old people we have today. Who are you
saying those he has appointed are not patriots?
No. the manipulation will not be done by Abakari. It will not be done by Colonel Ali. It will not be done. You have a cabal that is coming from outside.
Who are these cabals? Okay, can you let us into some of them?
Come on.
Nigerians might want to know because this is a sensitive national issue.
Come on. Let me tell you, for example, in the national conference. In the national conference, when I, Yinko Dumaki, Chifolu Falae, Kede Namani, also some of us, we said, look, we must make provision for the Northeast because of the destruction. We worked hard. 5% was given in a committee headed by General Nwanyanwu. After the committee has arrived at a position, General Nwanyanwu asked Ambassador Gambari to read the report of the committee before the plenary. What was read was not the decision of the conference. That was what dragged us on for 3-4 days. What Gambari did was to add the entire North instead of provision of starting with the Northeast, which meant if there was similar devastation in Cross River will key into the fund. If there was such a thing in Kebbi, they will key into the fund. Nwanyanwu was quick in standing up that was not our decision. That infuriated the Southeast delegates. You know what they did? They went and resuscitated the 3 R's of General Gowon after the war and came up with the resolution. I wasn't there when they met, but they brought it to me to move. I read it. I said, I can't move this in this house. They said, why? I said, this will not help this situation. The Hebrews, God has helped you. You have built your land. This is putting kerosene on fire. They got angry and left. As they were leaving, they said, let them go and look for somebody else. As they were leaving, I called them back. I said, if you move this on this plenary, I will go against it. And that motion did not see the light of day. That is how a patriot should think.
All right.
You should not think about your place. Think about others. Look at the people that kickstarted the 5% to the Northeast. Look at the additional state given to the Igbos before the other states were created in the national conference. Who spearheaded it? Chief Olufalaye. No Igbo spoke before people like Naba and all others gave the endorsement, and Senator Ida and others gave the endorsement. Those are patriots. But the situation, you have somebody who will always read meaning into every decision. Notwithstanding his age, you see him, he will move at the dead of the night to confuse leaders. This country belongs to everybody, and we must fix it right. I don't want a situation whereby in the next few years our children will ask us, what are you doing? Those leaders, they didn't think about Nigeria, they thought about themselves.
This seems to suggest that Nigeria is still a very fragmented bunch.
Very, very.
That we call a country. But let's still come back to this particular issue of appointment and who should get what and not. A lot of people are wondering who really is going to suffer, or what injury would any section of the country who is not represented by the president's appointment, what injury exactly are they going to suffer in all of this that would warrant this being such a big controversy?
Well, you see, Nigeria is a very complex country, and people are very sensitive. I don't know how familiar President Muhammadu Buhari is to the internet. I will advise him. You know, old people, they wake up very early. Let him be visiting the internet. The same internet that brought him to office. Be reading directly what Nigerians are saying about his government.
Would you actually think that he'll have time to do that? He should probably have people who would draw his attention.
No, they won't give it. No, come on. You see, that's the point. That's the difference between all these presidents and President Babangida. I'm always talking about President Babangida. Babangida will go at all times and feel things himself. You must read it yourself. They will give you what you want to hear, especially when the cabal is at work. They can get everybody around and put them in the line. And
there you have the cabal again. You have refused to mention who.
No, you see, I'll give you an example of such cabals. I don't have to stay on television and start calling. They know them. As I'm talking now, they're shivering. They know I'm referring to them. Some of them confronted us in the conference, and we gave it to them. They ran away. For that 3 months, they didn't get close to us. Because you cannot see everybody and brandish him as people fighting a group.
Chief Nwanyanwu, what if it happens in the next 1-2 years, for instance? What if this kind of situation, let's just create a scenario now. This situation continues, the president appoints whoever he wants to appoint from a particular section of the country, and in the next 2 or 3 years, those other sections who feel they've been marginalized get real dividends of democracy and good governance. Would it make any difference?
I don't want to be speculative. The intent of government and governance is for people, their problems to be addressed. You get what I'm saying? Let me give you one example. Some people are calling for an exit clause because you have to hear what people are saying. They give an example. This exit clause exists in United Kingdom and Ireland. You know, last year, who said they should remain in United Kingdom succeeded by 54%.
Scottish referendum.
It exists in Canada. English speaking and French speaking, they do their own every 10 years. It is in Ethiopia, in their section 39 of their constitution. The reason for exit clause is to put the man in office on check so that he will know and realize that if you do this to these people, they have an option. In the national conference, I found out that most Nigerians want to believe in Nigeria, if not all. I want Nigeria to continue to grow from strength to strength, but you cannot grow the way we are doing it. Why you have that clause is because if you are president, you start dealing with Quebec. Quebec will say, see, we have nothing in this government. Let's have a referendum. It's as simple as that. The era of shooting guns before you leave is no longer there. Each ethnic group will just take their referendum and take it to United Nations. They confirm it.
But what would you
so let us not do things that will create this problem, because we don't want to belong to small countries. We want to. Nigeria is big. Nigeria is a big market. Nigeria is the envy of most countries of the world. They know what we have here. An American told me 2 weeks ago in Transcorp that the best this, the best that, the best that, they're all Nigerians. I said, really? He said, yes. He said, why is your country like this? It's because of the leadership.
Mr. Nwanyanwu, you did talk about the president earlier. You said he's a man of strong character.
Yes,
and
that's not in doubt.
You know, he has the capacity to take Nigeria to, you know, the highest height, if possible. Now, I'm wondering if this same president you're talking about is of the kind of character that you have described. Is it impossible that Nigerians give him the benefit of the doubt?
No, you have to be guided. Nobody, a tree cannot make a forest. You have to look at its age. He has said it. There are things that he would have loved to do if he was 40. He has to be guided by patriots. People who will look at him in the face and say, Mr. President, this is the implication of this. Let him think otherwise. But I tell you, as the cabal is now putting themselves together, they will not be able to tell him anything other than what will favor them and their cronies and their region. And you see, Nigerians reacted. I told you, our youth reacted first. My friend in Guzo, Yakase Kano, and Kebi, Zuru, they were shouting. They shouted "Blue Mother" on phone. I said, please take it easy. Take it easy. I will now have people across the country that are ready to fix this country. It is not a situation whereby we think that once you do it, the beneficiaries will say yes. If the reverse had been the case, I will say the same thing I have said this morning.
Chief Dan, there are people who would say these arguments are just the agenda of politicians who want certain interest, their own personal interest to be served, and it doesn't really affect, for instance, what really do I stand to benefit?
What interest do I have to be served with this argument I have made?
Wait a minute. No. There are some persons who will feel that a person is appointed from my village. Yes. What do I stand to benefit, for instance? I personally, I don't even know I know who my representative is in the National Assembly, but I've never met him before. And it doesn't really matter what the person does or which position he occupies. Some persons will feel, let us have people who are competent, people who would deliver the goods, irrespective of where the person comes from. That the entire hullabaloo about this thing is politicians who are looking for appointments and political settlements.
No. I don't think so. I have made that point entirely. that there is no part of Nigeria, if you want a particular field, experts that you won't get. Nigerians are read, well read, across the country. There are some chaps from Kano I met immediately after the election. You'd be shocked what came out of their head before you look at them as a disadvantaged state. You see, while looking for competence, you must look at the federal character principle. You have to look at the circumstances of the country. You cannot have entire security apparatus. One leg of the three ports in Nigeria is not represented. You cannot have a kitchen cabinet. You don't have anybody from a whole half of the country. That will not be right.
Yes, let's look at what that.
No matter the argument, you cannot justify it. You cannot justify it. So you have to take steps to rectify it, so that you can build confidence. I don't want a situation that President Muhammadu Buhari will burn off the goodwill. He has already started burning the goodwill which brought him into office. He shouldn't burn it off quickly, because once Nigerians have switched off, as they switched off during Jonathan, it's difficult to bring them back.
Let's see what more. We're almost out of time. What more we can distill from what his party, the APC, said? The president is appointing those whom he knows personally. These are his trusted friends, which he's been with for a long time, to fill these very key positions, which are very key for any administration. It does seem to suggest that the president's close circle of trusted friends are from a particular region. And some persons would say, well, if we are talking about looking at other sectors, other regions who have people who are competent, who are able to deliver the goods,
they will not be trusted.
Well, one, and secondly, they may need to be referred, and you don't know the interest of the person who is making the referral.
You see, I made that point earlier, and I drew an analogy with President Babangida. I'm sorry, I have to be saying, because we have to compare presidents. We have to compare presidents. The last time it was touted that President Babangida was going to run, in the entire South, made that statement, 24 hours, his posters were all over the place and billboards. He didn't send anybody. He did not send anybody. President Muhammadu Buhari should start building friendship. If a particular geopolitical zone or more did not vote for you, cut their friendship. How do I get these people to allay the fears that I hate them? It's not by doing things further, to show that what you said is true. I want to accept the fact that the president has the final say. But Nigerian people can also, we don't agree with this.
All right, we have to go, but quickly, very briefly before we do, you did say that we need to compare presidents, so you can check how the current president is doing. In comparing presidents and appointments, would you say it's the first time Nigeria has had this lopsidedness in appointments?
No, I started by saying that that's not the first time. I gave example with that of President Jonathan.
So why are we so bitter about this?
No, that of President Jonathan was towards the other part of the country.
What part of the country?
The north. If you look at the key appointments. But nobody cried over it. And there's a point I forgot to make. I don't know if I have a minute to do that.
No, you have 10 seconds.
10 seconds to do that. Okay. This is the first time that there's political alliance between the Southwest and the North. And this is also the first time the Southeast, South did not have political alliance with the North, who used to be their political allies. And it is good because it sends everybody to the drawing board, whereby you have to now build strong situations or strong geopolitical zone so that you can negotiate better.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chief Dan Nwanyanwu. He is a former national chairman of the Labour Party and former chairman board of trustees of the Labour Party, and we'll be looking at the appointments made by President Muhammadu Buhari and the allegation in some quarters that they are lopsided and favoured or tilted to a particular section of the country. Thank you so much for your thoughts and perspective.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
All right, Kakaki, the African Voice returns in a moment. So Table will be bringing us Pan-African World.
Well, thanks for joining us again on Pan-Africa World. 10 members of the Islamist militant group Boko Haram have been executed by firing squad in Chad. It comes a day after they were found guilty of terror charges at a trial in the city of N'Djamena. Security sources said they were shot at a firing range north of the capital. All 10 were convicted over their roles in twin attacks on the capital in June, which killed at least 38. A month after the attack, Chad reintroduced death penalty for acts of terror. Among those to die was Muhammad Mustafa, aka Benafaye, who had been described as